all the way through. It was philosophy. It was a light bulb moment that I had about a month ago, and I thought, I'm going to put this into like a talk or a format. And thankfully, this was available, and it's amazing that I'm allowed to come here and share this idea with you. It's called Shine Theory, Community, and DevOps, and it was originally Shine on collaboration over competition.
All right. I'm jumping in real quick, but apparently we've got some more technical issues this morning, and so you can actually hear me, but apparently we forgot to flick the switch to actually put the audio into Twitch.
So no one can hear me?
I think I can hear you, but let me just double check if the
One moment, just in case you're only hearing me.
All right, are we okay? We can hear Steve. All right, well, I'll jump back out again. Good luck. You can start over if you like. We've got some time anyway, so.
Start over. Hey, man, I practiced this about 47 times last night. So what's one more? What's 48, right?
You're among friends, so I don't think you have to worry much.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Again, just in case this didn't work the first time or worked the first time, my name's Steve Giguere. This talk is about culture. It's about philosophy, kind of, in a way. It was originally, I think I submitted it as Shine on Collaboration over Competition. I don't know if it's a different title, but just so there's a bit of familiarity there, DevOps, Community, and then Shine Theory. My name is Steve Giguere. As I said, I am the Director of Community and Other Stuff at a company called StackRocks. Why other stuff? Because I'm kind of the only guy in Europe. So they kind of get me do the coffee. I just am offering people t-shirts, anything, whatever it's got to be done, I'm doing it. This is a little bit more of me. This is kind of basically instructions on how to steal my identity if you want. We've got Twitter there. If you want to follow me there. I'm kind of everywhere as Eurogig. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about beer. So hey, why not, right? If you like beer, who doesn't like beer? And I'm launching a new podcast called CozyCast. Cozy. But it's actually continuous security. So I'm going to talk about all things security in our world on that podcast. So this is the photo I took outside of my window this morning. I don't know where you guys are. I am in Lincolnshire. And it's like that. And it's just getting worse. So awesome. I moved all the way here from Canada to get away from this. And boom, I'm right back in it. Let's kick things off, though. Let's talk about teamwork, or the teamwork trope that we often see in Hollywood. And it's like Hollywood is desperately trying to teach us teamwork. It kind of feels like that. This is something that I watched recently. It was good. I had some really awesome underlying themes about being a female competitor in a male-dominated world. Watch it. It's really good. But there was another theme in there, which was teamwork and how you need teamwork for success. It's not alone. Teamwork is a repeating theme, a trope, if you will. Whether it be a female chess player, whether it be weird cartoon manifestations of my emotions inside my Disney brain, whether it be a kind of diversity analogy of where the dwarves and the elves and the hobbits and the whatever the spiky head guy is and the wizards all have to get together to compete with a common enemy. It's there on repeat. And my particular lesson, though, began with a podcast. I love podcasts. They're the wonderful noise that fills my white space in my increasingly busy day that allows me to learn at my own pace. And this particular one, I learned a thing. Yeah. It's a podcast about words and language. It's run by Helen Zaltzman. I like Helen Zaltzman. I like her brother Andy Zaltzman. Look them up. I think Andy's now doing the news quiz on BBC. So they're sort of CD list celebrities. This one, she had a few guests. It was recommended to me specifically. The guests were Anne Friedman and Amina Tussaud. And they were talking about, well, they were on the show because they were talking about their book, right? I'm not plugging their book. I'm just explaining why they were on the show. I'm sure it's wonderful. I've not read it. But they're talking about their friendship and how it grew over time and how that kind of gave birth to this new phrase. And the phrase was the reason they were on the show. And of course, a phrase or a word or a grouping of words. And that word or phrase or group was, of course, DevOps. Nah, I'm just messing with you. It wasn't DevOps. It was shine theory. This was my light bulb moment. You see what I did there at the shine and the bulb and the, yeah, whatever. The original manifestation, why it became a thing, like a phrase, it wasn't their intention. They originally started as friends and they were talking to each other. And they got on so well that they started saying, I don't shine if you don't shine. And you get the idea. It means that if I make you great, then I will be great as a result of that. And it seems, when you say it, it kind of seems obvious, right? And yet, us humans, you know, it was first made public in this article. Well, this article was syndicated. So this was in New York Times, but it was also, I put this version up here because it was in The Cut. And I laughed at the most viewed story. Why did Princess Diana's hair look like that? I don't know. It was like a helmet. It just stayed on. But nevertheless, this was renamed to Why Powerful Women Make Greatest Friends. But if you look at, it's probably really hard for you to see across the top, the URL sort of slug actually says how to stop female competition. Now, that was the original context of it, talking about Beyonce, the sisters, and the demise of Destiny's Child, you know, which is tragic, of course. We all realize that. But it applies to everything, and how the negative elements of competition mean that the careers didn't benefit from it. They only suffered. So, to reiterate, I don't shine if you don't shine. So let's try to move forward on that and sort of build a philosophy around it. Collaboration over competition. That's roughly what it translates to. So let's dive into, let's say, the latter bit, or maybe the more negative side of it, and that is competition. Where does this come up in our lives? Or where doesn't it come up in a way, right? We've got our peers, whether we work with them or whether we don't work with them. Like these two crazy cats. Actually, let me upgrade that. Lethal Weapon, great film. Nothing compared to Tango and Cash. Come on. These guys, look at them. You got Kurt Russell, you got Stallone in their prime. These two cops are rivals. They don't get along, but they're going to have to work together. You know it, right? You've heard that trailer. I actually went and watched the trailer, and that's exactly what it says just before here. It's hilarious. And it's amazing that in spite of the fact that we've learned all of these teamwork things over time, somehow it doesn't seem to glue in. I can't believe this did not win the Academy Award that year. Tango and Cash. You know what did win? This thing. Rain Man, Best Picture 1989. Totally different film, or is it? These two don't get along, but through teamwork, and it's kind of the same film. A little bit more nuanced. But yeah, interesting. There it is again. If you say the casino scene, teamwork. Moving swiftly on. That guy. It happens in business all the time. You can take a much higher level of competition. You can see a grandiose version of where companies compete with one another and it doesn't really help. You can look at an election. People who just elevate themselves by trying to bring others down, it doesn't work. And if you look at, well, I work for a security company, and there are many security companies. The ones that sponsor this, and we compete. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that many of the rival security companies have amazing open source contributions, and you should go look at them. That would be crazy not to say that. There are ways that we can collaborate to make everybody better. The other version of this, which is less observed, but I've seen it so many times, is when a company doesn't collaborate with its customers. They don't use them as the core source of innovation. Maybe they do when they're a startup, but at some point, a lot of companies lose sight of the fact, and they position themselves as thought leaders and think of as the customers as only consumers, as opposed to key collaborators. And that doesn't work for either. All right, that's the last one. Colleagues. Now I'm specifically talking about your workplace. Now this can be vertically or it can be horizontally. If you have an employer-employee relationship where the weight of someone's decisions above you clouds their vision of what they're trying to do, and the fact that and it's not necessarily a management's fault when this happens. There's this notion of the Peter Principle where you get promoted to your level of incompetence. That's a pretty dark prediction of people's careers because it's not entirely accurate. But there's an element of it which is true. And as you move up, if you get used to being in the trenches and having hands-on, and you're given responsibility for other people, that skill set drifts away and other skills are meant to arrive. And it's that ability to communicate, collaborate, and manage. And when that doesn't manifest itself, there can be a bit of a friction there. There's interdepartmental, and that's the one that's what we're bringing together today with DevSecOps. DevSecOps used to be totally different, and that was a problem. DevOps, they kind of getting it together, right? And we're trying to get in there somehow. We're trying to get invited to that party and work out how to do it, but it's not easy. And even worse, if you're in an environment that does not promote diversity, you're just giving people more reasons to not communicate. DevOps. Hey, I get to use that slide. DevOps, it is Shine Theory. Shine Theory not only defines how success can be achieved in so many aspects of our lives, but also it brings clarity to the success of DevOps. This concept of collaboration over competition, the breaking down of development and operations, removing the separation of roles and knowledge is proving an advantage of an enabler so good that I should make that bigger. Enhance. Nice. It's more than a trend. I think we can recognize that, right? That the success of DevOps has changed the way we talk about software, the way we create software, the way we maintain software, and it represents a shared responsibility, a willing shared responsibility that has resulted in improved velocity and improved quality, and it's proven. All right, so what happens if we don't DevOps it or we don't DevSecOps it? I don't know if you've heard of Conway's Law. Conway's Law, there's a fellow speaker that I run into occasionally when I do talks at East Croydon. Why that is, I don't know. And he loves to talk about Conway's Law, and so do I. It's essentially the idea that organizations design systems that mirror their own communications structure. And think about that. Like, think about the places you work and how well all the places you've been and how well they communicate with each other, both across and, well, horizontally and vertically. Companies whose practices revolve around the perception of value being hoarding knowledge or property or power or role, they risk a culture and a product that reflects this. And even more so, they risk stifling innovation and frustrating their most valuable assets. And that is us. Now, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but you got to read The Unicorn Project. If you haven't read it, it's full-on proper bedtime reading. It's fictional. It's not fictional. I've never worked anywhere that bad, but I have definitely worked many places where parts of that book are definitely happening. And it's the kind of thing that if you are actually in a position of influence and you've not read it, totally got to go there. All right, let's talk about community. That's nice, isn't it? It's a good word. Specifically in this case, I'll come back to this community, and I'm going to talk about the open source community. I am a massive fan of the open source community. I don't contribute enough to it. I know that. I'm working on it. The open source community have been and are a model of collaboration. They embrace that many is more powerful than few. Creation and innovation is fueled by transparency. It's like this a beautiful thing that in some cases has totally flipped the business model. Like the idea of giving things away. Try explaining open source software to I tried explaining it to my dad. He's like, he couldn't get it. He's like, well, people just write software and for free and it's out there and you just go use it. I don't get it. It's weird. It's tough. And if you look at some of the recent examples, and these are not endorsements, they're just good examples. The company formerly known as Rancher, they are incredibly successful. They were just acquired. They have demonstrated that keeping your source code behind closed doors is not a requirement for success. Hey, go look at that source code. It's not the tidiest source code. It does the job, and it's a good product. And it's a bit of a flag bearer. And I really like the people that work there. Like I always watch, and this is a plug, Adrian Goins has a thing called Coffee and Cloud Native he does every day. In the UK, it's on at 12:30. You got to check it out because it's like one of my biggest learning tools. And he does it for free. It's not even a Rancher thing. He's just a guy who works there. He's the director of community, co-director. Very cool. Check it out. It's amazing. Kubernetes is another thing. It's almost the same as Rancher, but they just kind of woke up and went open source as well. I think it's an absolute essential thing to at least, if you're a company starting out, here's my lecture bit. If you're a new company starting out, consider what you can open source as well as what you cannot. Because there's probably some contribution you can bring into the open source community that would mean you instantly get community involvement. Your customers are a part of your offering. It's an instant way to build community. And I wish people would think about that from the outset. So there we go. Right. I once made an off the cuff remark. I'm going to make it again. This is not a measure of success by any stretch, but I said that you can judge the cleanliness of a restaurant's kitchen, which you can't see, by going to look at its toilet. Harsh, right? And if you want to judge the quality of a software company, I don't know about you guys, but I go straight to GitHub and I go, oh, I wonder what they've got here. And it's not like the solitary foundation. It's not but it certainly does help, and you don't want to get there and, you got one of these. By the way, this is a pretty famous photo of a toilet. You're thinking, why is there a famous photo of a toilet, Steve? This is a punk venue in New York called CBGB's. And I've been there and I've seen this toilet, and I would say this is a complimentary photo of that toilet. Moving on. I don't want you to have to look at that for too long. Community. Finally, a great thing about community is this one. I mean, come on. People put so much effort into these things, and you wonder what is going on. Like the amount of it's an amazing thing that brings people together. You've got free knowledge. I'm pushing it on Twitch. I put it on Twitter. It's like, this is just free knowledge for you. If you're watching this, you get it. Totally awesome. So hats off to everybody at DevSecOpsDays, London, and everywhere. Thank you for letting me do this, and thank you for running this. So let's talk about what can go wrong. Us. Yeah, that's right, folks. We are the biggest risk factor in our own success. Being empathetic, being altruistic, being I don't shine if you don't shine, it kind of flies in the face of human nature, right? We are selfish humans. We work hard for our achievements. Job security, self-doubt, all of these things create a perpetual psychological struggle that suppress just some basic positive ethics. Like ethics that are not new, okay? Tango and Cash, come on. We learned it in the 80s. And Confucianism, the earliest mention I could find of all of the repeated pay it forwards and you get what you give and all that kind of stuff was Confucius. He said, I think he was like the original do unto others, etc. thing. That's a while ago. It's taking some time to learn. But yes, unfortunately, we're not that smart. We do dumb things occasionally. We don't put two and two together all that well. And sometimes we're just dumb, straight up stupid. All right, let's talk a little bit about why we're here. DevSecOps. This is my world. This is your world. Even if you're DevOps, you're actually kind of still DevSecOps, right? This is the extension of the more famous portmanteau, French, in which security is often seen as crashing the party. Dev and Ops are tight, right? And we're often seen as, I don't know, like squeezing in the middle. And sometimes to think, ugh, yeah, I don't like that. Sec in the middle of DevOps. I know what I'll do. I'll say Sec DevOps. Yeah, nailed it. In spite of perceptions, our intention is noble, right? We just want to make sure that we keep things safe. We want to protect our data. There's a whole ethical requirement around security that we're trying to convey to DevOps so that we understand that we're working together to keep all of us safe. It is, in fact, collaboration. So while we're not there yet, I would agree with Vandana, who just before this said, the answer isn't necessarily tooling. It helps. It's not automation. It helps. It's certainly not compliance, but it helps. It's culture. More of what I learned. Yes, it's podcasts. Yes, it's books. But most of what I learn is from us. It's from the people who are around me that I'm talking to. And if I surround myself with the right people, I break out of my bubble. I meet people who I don't normally meet, and I become part of, let's say, the DevOps world. DevSecOps is an inevitable result of that. I look to the demonstrable innovations and collaborations of the open source community. They are that light in the distance. I look to individuals and organizations that collaborate to bring education, transparency, community, that all the Shine Theory philosophies represent as a fuel for innovation, imagination, and of course, success. So, last one. Our job as security professionals, be more DevOps, so that DevOps can be more us. Steve out. What do I do now? I'm done.
Oh, you are in fact ready, because Michael was saying like, oh, I was about to clap because it felt like the end of the talk. It's like, no, I think we've got at least 10 minutes left.
It was a false peak.
Nice.
No, that's okay. Thank you for that. That was great. Shine theories. I do really feel like you can shine if other people shine too. I pretty much do that, or at least I try to do that quite naturally already.
I think you do.
Know, oh, thanks. Let me just see. Let me check all the channels to see if there's any questions. Does anybody have any questions for Steve about
I just saw Michael Mann say, "Shine on, you crazy diamond." Michael, you're showing your age there.
No, I think that was Glenn.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
It's still showing the age.
Only flying colors. Everybody's yeah. There's like a lot of fun stuff. Okay, so yeah, I would like to invite everybody to go into the speaker Q&A channel on our Discord to ask you some questions, Steve, if you don't mind. Thank you so much. This was great.